Hello class, we're going to go ahead and finish up our video over the explorers of the world. We left off with Columbus. Now we're going to look at Vasco da Gama. Now Vasco da Gama was a sailor from Portugal, and he continued the trip that Diaz had started. This time he went all the way around Africa, made it all the way to India, the first European explorer to get to India by going east on the sea. Now, when Da Gama had done that, this opened up a problem. Spain and Portugal weren't really friends, so they needed somebody to fix a problem that they had. Now, this problem. Oh, here's a picture of some of Da Gama's ships. What kind of ship is that? That's right, that's a caravel. All right, Pedro Cabral. He's another Portuguese. Let's talk about him before we get into that conflict between Spain and Portugal. Now, he was going to make a trip along the coast just like Da Gama did, but instead he accidentally went west and he reached Brazil. Now, he later on continued and made it to India, but whenever he discovered Brazil, unexpectedly, he had some more territory for the Portuguese to control. Now, back to that conflict. Spain, with Columbus and other explorers, are discovering that there's Mexico and all this stuff here, and they want to take this territory, but they realize they're going to start fighting with Brazil. So the Pope asked him to mediate, and he decided by picking a line of longitude, and he made a treaty called the Treaty of Tordesillas. And this basically said that everything to the west of the line was controlled by Spain, everything to the east was Portuguese. Now, you might imagine this could anger some people, like England and France later on, because, where are they going to be able to go? Spain had all this territory over here, and Portugal had all this over here. Oops, with Brazil, and all this stuff with Africa over here, leaving out pretty much every other country in Europe. Now we get to Magellan. Magellan's the last Portuguese-Spanish explorer. He is the first guy to circumnavigate the world. Now, right here, there's a strait in South America, this little gap that he went through. He went up the coast, and he eventually made it to the Philippines. Now, when Magellan got to the Philippines, he got in a fight with some of the people living there and was killed right in this area. He's still given credit for his trip, even though it wasn't him who finished it. In fact, he had like 22 ships. Whenever he was finished, whenever his men, the ones who lived, made it back, there was only like one or two boats left. He's given credit for being the first to circumnavigate the planet, or circumnavigate the world. Now, the word circumnavigate comes from the Greek and Latin root for circle. And if you're paying attention in math class, you know that the circumference is basically the size or the measurement of the outside of a circle. Now, France. Jacques Cartier. France is right here. They realized that Spain and Portugal pretty much controlled everything to the south. So they wanted to figure out another way to get to China, because that's their goal. So Cartier explored up here into Canada, and he came into let's go ahead and erase that X so you guys aren't confused. There we go. He explored the St. Lawrence River. And for a while, the French, including Cartier, were thinking, hey, there's a way to get west by just cutting through this whole continent, cutting through here. But when you get to Lake Ontario, there's a stop there. Later on, explorers come up here into the Arctic, but pretty soon there's so much ice they can't get through there. So the French are now exploring these areas. Now, Francis Drake, he was an English explorer, and we talked about him at the Renaissance of Queen Elizabeth, and he liked to go here to Spain to attack Spanish ships. This is before the Spanish Armada, when the English defeated them, and he wanted to steal their gold. While he was on a treasure finding, let's go ahead and get rid of that first, a treasure finding expedition. He ends up going all the way around the world, but this guy, he actually makes it back home, and he survives. He makes it back. Now, I'm going to bring up the Spanish Armada again. The Spanish Armada was the reason why the Spanish Armada was fought is because King Philip of Spain was mad that he was over here attacking Spanish ships. And so they sent their fleet up to England. And when the English were able to defeat the Spanish and sunk most of their powerful navy, the Spanish lost a lot of power and influence. They still had control over Mexico and much of South America, but the people living there started to rebel against their rule, and eventually the Spanish lose all that gold and power and money that they had earned. And Sir Francis Drake helped bring that about. And then England becomes the premier, powerful kingdom. And last, we talk about Walter Raleigh. Now, Raleigh was from England, like you guys can see in this map right up here. And he explored the eastern coast of the United States. In fact, the capital city of North Carolina is Raleigh, North Carolina. Make sure to add that G. And it got its name because he's the guy who founded that colony. And the United States, where we are at today, was basically colonized first by England. That's why we speak English today. I want to go back. And I believe I put this in the previous map or previous video, but I want to go ahead and touch back based on how these countries settled different areas. If we look right here, let's go back to that PowerPoint. Get my pen going. If we look right here, we can see how these ancient or these older countries, England, France, Spain, and Portugal, influence us today. And it influences us because this is why we speak English and why other places in our neighborhood speak European languages when Native Americans lived here. All right, so Portugal had Brazil, and Brazil today still speaks Portuguese. So the Portuguese controlled Brazil. Spain started to colonize everything in this box here. And today, people of Mexico, South America, Central America, their official language is Spanish. Now, the United States and this part of Canada speaks English because the English colonized these areas. All right, here, where Cartier explored, people there in Quebec, that part of Canada, they still speak French today. So when you ask yourself, why do we have to learn all this? Well, this is one of the reasons why we speak the words we speak, why the United States was founded, because these countries all started to explore these areas because they were trying to get to China. They wanted all those trade goods and all those items that the Chinese had, the people in India had, and in the process, they discovered a whole new world. All right, if you have any questions, you can see me in class. Watch this video as much as you need to. Don't forget to watch the very first video where I go through the technologies, identify those countries again, explain why they're looking for where they're going, and I did a short description of Zheng He from China, Bartolomé Diaz from Portugal, and Columbus's work for Spain. Any questions? Don't forget to see me in class.